Well, I hope you're still hanging in there. I know it's been a long day already, so I won't speak too much. I just wanted to say a few short words about Watershed Press. I think it's probably already on the radar screen of most of you, but just a few more catchwords, a couple updates. If you're new to Watershed Press, also get you on board. It began with Cascadia Poetics Lab, although we are now fully autonomous. So we are affiliated with Cascadia, but friends, close collaborators, but fully autonomous. And Watershed Press, I think what a clever name. It's a watershed idea that we take our watershed seriously. So we really play on both meanings of the term. And it is beautiful books rooted in place, primarily Cascadia. It doesn't have to be Cascadia, but primarily Cascadia. It's an experiment in a couple of very important ways. One I'd like to draw out, since we have many of our friends here from Canada. It's a Cascadian press. Now, if we were to put that politically, that would be it's a binational press. But I'll tell you this, that arbitrary little line between Washington and British Columbia, for example, and it works both ways. It cuts off such exquisite literary cultures from each other. It's stunning. If you really sit there and say, I'm going to read the great writers of our bioregion, you'll be stunned, because depending on what side of that colonial scar you're reading, you'll feel ignorant of the other side, or you'll know only the big highlights. But they're exquisite cultures. And this presents us with some political challenges. We are a post-national press, living in one of the darker moments of this nation. But also then, we're very, very careful when you say post-national, at a moment in which what it means to be in this nation that wants to suck in Canada as the 51st or 51st and 52nd. So it's tricky words, so really be post-national, but we'll start first. We'll start first, so it doesn't come across as a Trojan horse. It's tough also economically. The economic systems, the exchange rates, things like that are tricky. We have decided symbolically to put our faith in, it's a poetry press, so we're never going to make money anyway. So let's just lose it beautifully. That's what we want to do. And so,
He's not kidding.
yeah. So I really want the elegant poverty. That's what we want. I mean, the dignified poverty. And so the book costs the same on the U.S. side and the Canadian side, for example. So that's part of what we're trying to do. We've done 6 books. We have a brand new website also, watershedpress.org. Please look it up. We worked very hard on it. It looks gorgeous. A lot of beautiful art on it. We've published 6 books so far. Cascadian Zen Volume 1, that's in 2 editions. The regular edition, and then there's a deluxe edition. That's absolutely gorgeous, slipcase, signed by many of the poets. Comes with an original work of art signed by the artist. That's a fundraiser for the press, so if you just find a satchel of money, just come on by and pick up a coffee. We would love it. Cascadian Zen Volume 2, a wonderful book by Sharon Thiessen, is our first chapbook. Our chapbooks are the first editions, always in a run of 100, each numbered and signed by the author. So they're beautiful and collectible and gorgeous. Beautiful books rooted in place, also not crazy, vulgar, conspicuous spending aesthetic values, but still really good taste. Really nice sense for materials and font and type. And then Cascadian Zen Volume 2, another chapbook, Lorin Medley, that's you've been hearing from her. And then our 2 new books, one by Jim Dott, Touchwood, with beautiful illustrations by Nathan Wirth, and then the unforgettable Robert Michael Pyle, Bob Pyle, right here. And they're good-looking books, they're beautiful books. All 6 books are available for sale at the Watershed Press table right there. And many of the authors are here. If you are not one of the authors of a single authored book, chances are you're probably in Cascadian Zen 1 or 2. So a lot of people here, a lot of signatures for you to get. We're working on 2 new books right now. One is by a person that some of you knew, Chip Hughes. Chip Hughes was Robert Son's student, so he comes from that poetic sensibility. He was also a professional philosopher and very famous as a philosopher. He's kind of his own tricky little version of being a Jan Zwicky. So really famous in philosophy, but also really, really separate, not unrelated, but not confused poet. You may also know that he was due to be here at the Poetry Festival last year. He didn't make it because he was rushed to the hospital on the first day of the festival. He never recovered from that. He died earlier this year, just a few months ago, actually. So this will be his last will and testament to the world that's coming out. It's a beautiful and quite poignant book. And then you'll see, I'll say very little about it, but you'll see it, I hope, next year for the Poetry Fest, our first poetry art book. That's all I'm going to say, but it's an art book. It's going to be gorgeous. So watershedpress.org, we're working hard, we're working for you. This is one of your voices, not your only one, but I hope you'll think it's one of your good ones. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Jason. And now we'll get a bit of a taste of the Watershed Press experience. So first up, we've got Lorin Medley. Lorin Medley is a counselor and writer from Comox, BC, published in several anthologies, including Winter in America Again, Cascadian Zen, Volume 2, Drift, Poems and Poets from the Comox Valley, Sweetwater, Poems for the Watersheds, and Refugium, Poems for the Pacific. Her writing can be found in the new quarterly magazine, Subterrane, The Puritan, Many Gendered Mothers, and Portal. She won the 2014 Islands Short Fiction Contest, Aslan Hunter's 2015 Books Matter Poetry Prize, and was longlisted for the 2016 Prism International Poetry Contest. Lorin's poetry chapbook, On the Way to Clusums, is forthcoming. Well, not forthcoming anymore. It is out, and you can get it at the Watershed Press table. And about Lorin's poetry. Lorin's poems affirm her namesake's promise of mixture of melody, a cauldron of bits or pieces that bind her to Clusums, the old Smoljik's name for the river ground, for her language of inhabitation, working the body, listening to how the parts echo in, echo out, deja vu, fuck it, don't overthink, elk falls carving through the canyon, affirming ways of knowing predate the take, never mind, atmospheric river of information, divination ritual that remembers in seagulls the music, dive in, lift off, in, off, of, lift off, ling cod, halibut carcass, the earth turning it all through us, revealing unceded territories, places where bracken fern will outlive this kind. Please welcome Lorin Medley.
Thank you, Matt, for that introduction. And can you hear me okay? Yes. Yeah. And thank you, Watershed Press, for this beautiful, beautiful chapbook. This is a lovely thing to hold. And it was lovingly stitched together by the woman that I worked with, who was the editor. I worked with Ursula Vera, who also from Vancouver Island, but she couldn't be here today. So she's hand-stitched these. And I'll read the next two poems. You'll hear a name, Mary Clifton. And Mary Clifton was the last fluent speaker of the Iojuethum dialect of the island Comox language. So you'll hear her name, and there's a word. If you saw the slides earlier, one of the last slides, there was a picture of stairs going up very steeply, and that was at the Goose Spit Provincial Park. The Ayajuetham word for Goose Spit, or it was probably not even Goose Spit at that point, is very hard to pronounce. And I worked a little bit with Robert Bringhurst, who is a linguist, probably the only person who could help me understand how to pronounce it. And he just said, you know, it's very difficult for us North American speakers to say that word. So the word, I'll give you the spelling of the word. So the word is Pelxqiqw. Clams and Cockles, a brief stay at the Stagger Inn for Kella, 1955 to 2023. December's moose-antlered reindeer pull the sleigh along Kella's dock. Yellow, green, red strings of light lit for the season. And the mean old Grinch himself in place of the fat man, fishnet illuminated blue. Let's do the stairs at Goose Spit in half shorts and leggings like our daughters wear, or those fitness buffs who jog up from the parking lot to Mulholland and beyond. 165 steps to the pullout, heartbreaks catch and release. Mother, mother, your sand bluffs. Dunlins and plovers feasting at low tide. Sandpipers, sanderlings, sand fleas, early risers, how young we were. All that fuel in the spirit lamp. Skewers of halibut, smoked black cod, strawberries dipped in chocolate, death by fondue. With the kind of people who rent their cabin to a poet for $60 a month and lower the rent, having considered the state of both. Mother, mother, realtors mink the waterfront. Potholes trip up the road to the main house and boat shed. Mother, your blue carbon salt marsh, ancestral midden. Option to rezone, bedlam. George says Kella is not sleeping nights. His kids are upset. Carol, Fran, and Ruth push through to stop the chainsaws. May Day on Midden Road. And then the sinking of the Kella Lee, Queen Charlotte Sound, 2001. Wide-eyed halibut on crushed ice in the fish hold, wind 80 knots from the south, 10-meter seas. She keeled over starboard. Life raft painter line entangled with paravane boom and rigging. In the little brown church across from the bakery, a survivor doubles over. His legs belong to the sea. I see him. I see hands reaching out from pews. The way people half rise from their seats. View from the pullout. Mrs. Clifton called the spit Pelq, round on point. Pelq, the sound of clams and cockles at the end of an ice age. An oxymoron if I ever heard one. Then again, maybe not. If the point is moonlit in the shape of things, like who gets to stay here and for how long. We breathe in bodies of unceded territory. Near my place of residence, I heard Mrs. Mary Clifton. J'aime, she said. Tree. So I began to fill in the woods, lost in the red, red artifacts of violence, mountainsides, femicides, bare sloped shoulders. J'aime. It's cold as fuck out here. Language lost in the words. Sunshine slant through Zale. Woodpecker drum tenders rattle the chimney vent. Time signature 1876, the Indian Act. Danny just wants to fish, so don't ask him about it. His uncle on the old $5 bills. BC Packers Salmon Seiner number 45, Ripple Point, 1958, the year I was born. Sockeye season. An apparition appeared today on the trunk of Chamaecyparis lasoniana stuartii. Yellow-bellied sapsucker, I want to say sapper, tapped a tree, uplifted the code. Wait. The operation has branched out, said bird gone to the other side. HB pencil-sized crop circles. Hummingbirds chip and sip sequential zeros. Time signature 2024, sign here signatories. There's a bee in the woods outside the big house, also an eagle tree. A sign, Gela Keesla. Everything relates to everything. Red dresses hang on hangers in trees. Wind stranges the quiet. The red dresses refers to, May 5th is Red Dress Day in British Columbia. I don't know if that's the same here. National Day of Awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and 2SL LGBTQ. And so in Comox, when I drive down the hill, there's this eagle tree, and there will be red dresses hanging from it. And when the wind blows in it, they say that the red dresses are a guide for the spirits to come home. So part of being here and being in Cascadia for me has very much been about tuning into the land I live in and the history, the first peoples of that land. And part of that history includes residential schools. This is called His Bride Wore Dogwood. Sister Marie Baptiste had a supply of sticks as long and thick as pool cues. This is an epigraph from the Musqueam Nation former chief George Guerin. Kya! Marmot sounds the alarm. Word spreads in a dialect of roots and branches. Pacific Northwest roots, mycelium mother tongue. Oh, we heard the gray ghost bark, murmurations through old man's beard. Heard Alcatraz, Cooper Island, 4 nautical miles from Chamaenas, an otter swim, orca Nadian. We cannot say how could this happen. How could this happen, we said. Sister Marie Baptiste wielded her stick like a man would, ruled long and hard as she would what Indian kids said didn't matter. O matter day, O sister of salt whip inflamed with the love of our Lord Jesus Christ. No knives or forks in any Indian village in Canada, began one story. Soap and scissors, another. If they are not Christian, take their land. If they leave for any reason, take their house. Take all the we's and they's that thrive as pronouns of disgust. How old structures yank us from heart to dominate. I cannot say how did this happen. To Cascadians from disturbed sites, unceded territories, places where bracken fern will outlive this kind. What Liddy said, take that eye and let that eye go. Clouds become needlefish. In the highest branches of a hemlock, one murrelet egg. Sea wolf on the beach, how she lifts her head, howls, and her fearful symmetry, and the walls and shutters, and the architects of separation. And I'll read one more. This is there's a gnome in genome, also a neem. No snow on the glacier, treetop cheese and uproar. Was me opened the door, waking dream all about, intertwine, double helix, how we got here. Mesozoic bedrock, volcanic in origin, waters of an ancient fishing weir next to Portuguese Joe's. Seagulls the music, dive in, lift off, in, off, of lift, off, lingcod, halibut carcass. Leto said that a fish made its way from here to the Queen. Long did she reign. Mount Washington snow base, 44 centimeters, January 31st, 2024. All eyes on the glacier Queenish. White whales melt. Ways of knowing predate the take, never mind atmospheric river of information. Oh, look, here's a strand of Giacomo de Lentini in waterways that squall and croon round the rock, echo in, echo out. Deja vu. Fuck it, don't overthink. Elk falls carving through the canyon. Bedrock folded and faulted. Triassic reboot. Got dizzy in the woods just now. A jiggle of Tremella mesenterica, witch's butter. Ecosystems rot, lean, photosynthesize. Bud as though August had never been a trickle. I ran into Lucia of the adjacent treadmill in the park at Brooklyn Creek. We heard a dog whistle. It came from here, the place where creek water meets culvert, and cutthroat trout aim for the estuary, where we too will enter the Salish Sea, more crustacean than not. Thank you. A very short one to finish. You in unison with the beginning of time. With an epigraph from Charisse Dupree's, a deep-sea marine ecologist who studies underwater volcanoes. And there's a very big seamount called the Tuzo-Wilson Seamount that she's studied. She's with Fisheries and Oceans Canada. There's a sponge garden down there. It's like an ancient old-growth forest that has just been lost in time. Charisse Dupree's. Hello, baby, in an underduck. Breath suspended at swing top, where ligaments loosen and organs lose their bearing, where attachment slumps like seagrass on seamounts the size of Vancouver. Down deep where the ocean never sees light, octopi inklings meet scaly-head sculpin darts of biodiversity. Newly gendered creatures appear under stars no longer starry. And there you are, reflex smiling. Someone will always say, look, they smiled. Even when you're passing gas, gulping air, or dreaming of a body mapping itself. Nubs will become fingers, how they'll curl around another finger, bring it to the mouth. Thank you.
And next up, we have Jim Dott. Jim lives with his family on a 100-plus-year-old house in a 100-plus-year-old house in Astoria, Oregon, above the Columbia River. Since retiring from elementary school teaching, he has immersed himself in poetry. Jim's new book, Touchwood, was published this year by Watershed Press. These poems are invocations and meditations on trees. His two previous collections are A Glossary of Memory and Another Shore. In addition to writing, Jim gardens, hikes, studies natural history, and tries to improve his Spanish. He is a co-host of a monthly poetry open mic, a volunteer programmer producer at KMUN Community Radio, Children's Bedtime Stories, and participates in local theater productions both on and off stage. You can learn more about Jim and his writing at www.james.com and about Jim's poetry. Jim rejects the common proverb that the forest is lost in the trees. He gets close enough to disorient the mind until it finds itself seeking not the door to wilderness flung open, but slipped through quietly, an emptied cone beside the trail to break down, be embraced by soil, mycelia, a net of root feeling. You have to touch wood, the revelation of its content bent into an asana, a thigmomorphic posture tethering that great above to the lowest realm. The tributes roots have drawn. Also root of truth, trust, true, touch wood, let truth solidify. Feel that river inside flow up your own phylum. Hold it, let go of a not so long as 1400 ring history of taxonomic misnaming in a chain of feeling words, and in the process, learn your tongues, pheromones passed leaf to leaf, scent root to root, touch wood, trust this other elder might show you how to survive without moving as it drills down, cleaves stone, drinks darkness, raises the dead, branching tendrils, fungi's mycelial nets, the warp and weft of forest, learns soil's tongue, one from many, many into one. Please welcome Jim Dott.
Oh, thank you, Matt. I guess I don't have to read anything. Great to be here. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Adelia, Dan, and Jason of Watershed Press who brought this to life. So I'll start off with a little bit of one of the opening poems, Tree, Its Roots. From Middle English tree, Old English trio, Proto-Indo-European deru, firm, solid, steadfast. Also root of truth, trust, true. Touch wood, let truth solidify. Druids, dryads long since exiled from their groves. Forests breathe, but timbers felled. Not beings, but commodities, cloned, split, burned green. I have dozed in your shade, taken in your outbreath, stolen your fruits, slit your bark to bleed you, snapped your limbs to feed my fire. I've lived inside your bones. If I could, I would learn your tongues, pheromones passed leaf to leaf, sent root to root, touch wood, trust, encircle us. This poem's called Naming the Tree. It's about Douglas fir, Pseudosugum and zizii, maybe the symbolic tree of Cascadia. It's one of the most common in the region anyway. 635. First fire. Seedlings you will wither in the shade. Need flame to open the canopy. Elders must burn and fall. Next mist, rain, thin soil, and sun. Some of you will be eaten, others will wither, a few will reach toward sun. Since that burn, some of you assembled 1,400 rings. A few were felled by wind and slide, swept into rivers, washed to sea, where you drifted for years. Throughout your range, the original indigenous names that drew the namer toward the heart of you, those names, those who spoke those names, long since sunk in needle duff. Your buds, perfectly formed rusty embers, flare into yellow-green needles each spring. 1791. That's one of, there's four more parts to that one, to this poem. Archibald Menzies, ship's surgeon and naturalist on the Discovery, duties, bleeding, amputation, collecting seeds. He first found you on Vancouver Island, thought you a pine, Menziesii for him. 30 years later, David Douglas, a gardener's apprentice at Scone Palace in Scotland, was recruited to collect and catalog new plants in America. Billy, a Scottish terrier, his constant companion. He gathered your seeds in the Oregon country, sowed your gospel like Chapman with the apple, only at home in his joy, encountering new plants. Spread now far beyond your original range, an ornamental, an invasive, a cash crop. Your needles persist for 8 years, leave scars on the twig when they drop. 1794, 1834. Menzies was among the first whites to summit Mauna Loa on Hawaii. When Douglas came 40 years later, Hawaiians still remembered Menzies, the red-faced man who cut off men's arms and legs and gathered grass. Douglas, too, made the summit, but went snowblind, wandered lost for days. He also climbed Mauna Kea, Hawaii's other taller peak. While climbing it, Douglas remarked in his journal, "The grassy flanks of the mountain abound with wild cattle, offspring of stock left here by Captain Vancouver, and which now prove a great benefit to this island." Neither Menzies nor Douglas could untangle your taxonomy, knotted with misnamings: Oregon pine, Douglas spruce, taxifolia, yew leaf, but not pine, not spruce, not yew. Your own genus with cousins in Asia, that stockier sibling in the Rockies, glauca, gray, like Billy's muzzle after years of collecting. Mature needles appear dark green to nearly black, depending on the light, the distance from the eye. 2000 BCE, 2000 CE. Your logs, smoothed and bleached by your drifting years, washed up on beaches in Hawaii, were split and burned, chopped and carved into long, double-hulled dugout canoes. Few old groves remain. Few new stands will reach their age. Clear-cut replaced wildfire to open forests for your young. Investors demand returns on shorter terms than centuries. What shall we call you when 2 or 3 or more of you are gathered? A copse, a stand, a grove, unit in a tree farm, a community of chlorophyll and lignin, a congregation, rooted, reaching toward light, ready to burn. Your thick bark resists fire, heartwood, rose, sapwood white when first cut, ambers with age. You've been milled into beams, studs, peeled for plywood, cut young for Christmas trees. Your needles are flattened, blunt, soft in the hand. 1834, 1934. Walking the flanks of Mauna Loa, Douglas fell into a bull pit, was trampled and killed by a captured bull, offspring of cattle left by discovery. He'd been warned of the traps, walked past them, turned back. Some believed a bull hunter named Gurney struck him with an axe, stole his purse, shoved him in. Searchers found Billy 30 yards past the pits, fiercely guarding his master's bundle. Clothes, notebook, no money. That place in the grassy scrub is called Kalua Kauka, Doctor's Pit. 100 years after his death, local Scots erected a memorial marker, planted 200 of you. Your needles have a sweet, resinous scent when crushed. This one's called Cones. Containers for the stuff of sex, the tiny males packed with pollen, released to the mercy of gravity and wind. So much is made that always some will drift. To female cones, tube in, to the ovules penetrate the egg, and these cones will swell with their growing wealth of seeds. Tight green, going golden, homely brown, dangling, standing, fused to branch. In time, even the miser's fist unclenches. Torn loose by the gale, disassembled by beak and tooth, by paw and hand, the tithe taken, the rest let fall. Thank you. Let's see. There it is. Elegy for Western Red Cedar, Thuja placata. One. In steep draws under second growth, spruce and hemlock, old stumps of western red cedar crumble, sprout licorice fern and huckleberry. Light leaks through the distant canopy, closing around the ghosts of their trunks. Notches cut for steps and springboards where loggers climbed and stood still show on the stumps. Since the old ones fell, few seeds sprouted, fewer grew. 2. Thuja, Greek for a distant cousin, long ago renamed. Placata, plated, not needles, but flattened sprays of emerald braids. Not a true cedar, but a cypress, arborvitae, tree of life. Its small female cones, first soft green, then woody brown, release paper-winged seeds whose unremembered flights and scattered landings began the grove. 3. Those first in this land say, if you lean against it, you gain its strength. Call it long life maker. Say, long ago there was a man who did so much for his people that when he died, a benevolent spirit grew this tree from his grave to honor his gifts. Its bark, easily stripped and twisted, woven, or braided for ropes, nets, hats, robes, its wood so carvable and clean-splitting, bowls, canoes, paddles, house planks, memorial poles, the bent wood box from which raven freed the moon, masks of the wild woman of the woods, lips pursed for her call, ooh, ooh, ooh. She'd grab children who wandered too far and toss them into the basket on her back. Those first here gave a kind of grace for forgiveness and permission before taking. 4. The top cut, the undercut, the back cut, complete. The foreman's call as a trunk begins to lean, The crew leaps down, away, the final creak and snap. Gravity grips, it leans and goes. Shearing neighbors' branches, crushes through the undergrowth, thunders the unrelenting ground. Brief shower of needles, fallers' joyous howls echoing off the silence, backslaps, the crew scrambling up to assemble on the cut. Sawdust, wood chips clinging to grinning faces, sweat, damp arms, no prayer, no thanks, just a job of work. A tree, a log, board feet of lumber, a few dollars in their pockets on Saturday night. For beer, a bath, the brothel, beer, the brawl, more beer. Back to camp on Sunday, hungover, bruised, broke. 5. Now the axe heads and 2-man crosscuts, saws are rusted, all sold for scrap. But for one that hangs above the fireplace at the Loggers Inn up on the highway. Its blade painted in bright acrylics, a log shack, rhododendrons blooming beside a creek, uncut woods beyond. The shingles and shakes, window frames, posts and boats the trunk became, have rotted by now. What remains? Lining of a cedar chest, soundboard of a guitar, resinous scent of heartwood, a note's woody timbre, thuja baccata, western red cedar, arbor mayonnaise, tree of ghosts. And I'll finish off with roots. Theirs is not the lighted world. They go below, probe soil's night, branch, work around stones, fret at bedrock cracks, branch, drink and twine together, store the sap, branch, spread deeper, farther from the center, the seed, squirrel's mist, always gravity's allure. Thick as torsos, then thighs, forearms, fingers, narrowing to net strands fine as spider silk, where root tip ends and soil begins, only an atom's breadth. Step carefully when they breach and twine the trail, resubmerge, their world entering ours only when wind-thrown, undercut by roadwork, flooded up whole, when the river crests. They are the anchor, they are the well, the way down that leads back to the leaf-lit canopy. Thank you.
Let's give it up again for Jim Dott. And next up, we've got Katie Sarah Zale. And Katie has published 4 collections of poetry, including The Weight of a Leaf, a finalist for the Arizona Book Award. She is the director of a Tucson poetry reading series, co-editor of Winter in America Again, and there are copies back there for that. And the poems in response to the 2024 presidential election. She's also working on a biography of Sam Hamill. And about Katie's poems. Katie's poems practice the way inside, following the unfolding story, the draw of quiet, and a presence so simple and alive. Her awareness illuminates the overlooked relationships, how something so simple like lifting a butternut squash from its vine allows us to feel the manna of rich soils, its circular logic that permits us to return, to touch and remember. We believe in something primal, in nothing more than the slip of soil through our hands. Please welcome Katie Sarah Zale.
You know, I wish to thank all the hearts that organized this event and made it run, well, just perfect the way it is running, let's say that. I appreciate really what I've learned and shared with all of you, and I'm taking those wisdoms back to Tucson. To start, I'm concerned about the future of humanity in this technological frenzy, and that is trying to erase the human spirit. On my walks with my dog, Emma Rose, around northwest Tucson, out of the city, I muse about and envy, actually, the simplicity of the natural world. This first poem is called A Vulture's Life. Only the high-pitched movement of hummingbirds, in syncopation with the featherless red heads of vultures, as they peer out and down from the phone lines, waiting. The scrolling of fiber optic data brings cacophony to the day as youths bow into their phones. They lean equidistant against a fence, waiting for the bus, their thoughts scurrying like crabs in a common pot. The bus driver, elitist they think, or perhaps that name is from last night's homework, calls them. He nods in greeting, their eyes still on a screen. He says something about messages roiling to a boil. The steam billows so high, you see nothing. How uncertain our lives, of noise and malaise and flatness. We of guttural hiss watch and wait for the quail to flee the bush and cross the road at the wrong moment. Then we feast. As the bus pulls away, the vultures rise up in a asynchronous glide above the trees before returning to the phone lines. Time pauses, the wind eases to a breeze, opens a dance of light, a vulture's life of simple connection, the ability to fly from the unbearable static of despair to live in harmony of purpose, a quieter melody. So instead of the World Wide Web, I dream that we humans are more part of the Wood Wide Web. So Jim might understand that better, which suggests a suggestion like the fungi from mushrooms that join trees from around the world. Another couple words I want to share, since we only get to hear this once. Mannerbund is a German word. It's a band of men who, as a rite of passage, they create a male sphere of dominance in politics. And autarky might be a better known word, but it's a society which is economically independent, which is the goal, it seems, of our present administration. And another one I wanted to bring up, Valkyrie. You know, I thought, why in the world did they name that Tom Cruise movie Valkyrie? I don't get it. So I had to do some research, and actually it's the Valkyries are in a Norse myth, are women who go down and save slain warriors so that they can rise again for another battle. This is called Wood Wide Web. It's hard to know. To start with Rodrigo Toscana's Mannerbund or Trease. To speak of American autarky or Trunken Leaf. To slip into the shadow of North Korea and Nazi Germany, or walk along the nurse logs of the Hoh rainforest. The headlines affirm in metronome rants that corporations are human, while poets on street corners use the rhythm of jazz to saxophone selfhood in the name of trees. Their notes flood the wood wide web, flow like blood through the mycorrhizal fungi connecting all trees of the world, regardless of genre or border. It comes down to thinking. Say the capitalists want to be autarkist. They don't know what to do with Eduardo Kohn, who explains how forests think. Be we Mannerbund or Valkyrie, we are not listening to the Matsutake mushrooms, who assure that we can survive capitalism. Watch as we dig through the ruins of our thinking in this pre-apocalyptic world, our listening tone deaf, our thinking out of sync with the trees. It was Swami Vivekananda or Plato, perhaps Buddha, who said, thinking is the talking of the soul with itself. It is our soul for which we dig. And maybe you can guess who this poem is for. It is called Tyranny of the Straight Line, and it's an ekphrastic response to the Enso. Do you know the Enso art, Zen art? In a time before most remember, a man built a town of organic flow. Its lines, like the limbs of trees, pursued the path of the sun. Homes were of uneven floors, round pole ceilings, doors that arced like robed monk. The town bell rang of its own accord. Stairs wandered in an uncertain journey. Windows angled like questions. A king, who imagined himself a great architect of the straight line, banished the man to a cell of stone walls, a dirt floor, and windows with bars. The man drew his art in the snow of winter, in the still hardened soil of spring. Some in the world of sentient beings found shelter in the shadow of the king. Elephants ambled in fear, trunk to tail. Echelons of geese followed the lead on a path of least resistance. Plants continued to grow in the shallow furrows in which they were planted. Others protested the tyranny of the straight line. Eels swam serpentine. Impalas donned lyre-shaped horns. Wildebeest and zebras migrated in cyclical pursuit of the seasons. Vines chose direction by the whim of touch and light. The moon rotated on its axis as it circled the sun. A monk painted Enso circles everywhere on his journey to lose and find himself. He lived in silence. Still, everyone could hear his poems about connection, how flowers need bees and butterflies, monarchs their milkweed. As the day gave way to evening, they saw the drawings of the circles as both empty and full, as the beginning and end of all things. They thought about the king, the one before him, and the one before. They felt afraid, then they forgot. A Zen master said, the crescent moon becomes full and wanes until nothing is left. But there it is again. And this poem is for Roxy. We have this impassioned discussions about our poetic aesthetics. She's a little bit rock and roll and I'm country. This is titled A Postmodern Musing. It happens often now, a raven, a black line across the sky swoops down, rises up with the blue egg of a dove in its curved beak. I say, look, to my companion. She says, what? I manage C, but she doesn't. I say Gaza. She says, what? A disconnect between what is real, what is poetry, what is a postmodern rupture of attention. It's not easy to speak about seeing, about feeling, versus lost exploration, experimentation, the need to find new without cupping the old. Yet I, postmodern, digress with wonder if she will see where we are, side by side, seeing our thoughts, lifting opposing wings of the same bird. And in spirit of resistance, this is called revolution. And the epigraph is, if some of you are familiar with Wael Ghonim of Egypt during the Arab Spring, he's the one that wrote, "We are all Khalid Said," that everybody on the internet, it was able, a way for one of the first times to do a revolution on the internet. He said, "The power of the people is greater than the people in power." Talk of revolution is rumbling across the land. Birds flitter from perch to perch. Dogs pace like corralled cattle. People awaken each day in a fever of fear, their mouths agape like cod, craving air. Sometimes we find the courage to say, enough. We enter the ocean expecting to drown. Instead, the waves rise and retreat across our nakedness. We feel baptized. We feel blessed. We understand how simple what the sea knows. Sometimes we choose fire, allow it to consume us in protest of fear and pain. Thich Quan Duc sits lotus as gas rains. Flames spark on the cushion beneath him. They coil like snakes around his body, then explode. An American soldier drops his gun. A Denver student announces his return to Tunisia. He speaks of a new spring. He says Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire in protest. We are all Quan Duc. In Egypt, the police murder a young street vendor. Wael writes on Facebook, we are all Khalid Said. Hamza of Syria, 13, arrested during protests, is tortured and murdered. Now he sits on a hill with Muhammad and Khalid. Quan Duc visits often. Maza of Gaza arrives, plays with her doll. Hamza says, we are all Hamza Abid. From the hill, they watched the raptor birds from Egypt, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Tunisia flee across the sky. They waited with Americans for the Florida man in El Salvador to come home. We are all Frengel Rais Mota. Waiting is an American thing. Someone else will do something. We have forgotten revolution is in our blood. We are clownfish hiding behind the tentacles of an inmate. The hill is just a story. We are connected to no one. We shrug. We write poems. And I wanted to sneak this in, another one for my sweetie over there, Michael Robert Pyle. It's called The Monarchs of Michoacan.
Oh, good.
See, he's paying attention now. Not me, but butterflies, you know. We come in search of what eludes us. Our worlds like wombs where we rest our wings. We listen for wings to rise. Our eyes are suns as we scale the hills of Michoacan, rich in milkweed and chrysalis. We lean as one. Our breasts lift and lull. We wait for an opera of orange and black, crescendos of flutter, adagio whispers. We wait for a rhythm that precedes us and continues without. Indigenous faces glisten in the heat like ripe papaya. Their night-singed hair a weave of wing and flow. Their eyes blink in memory of flights we have never taken. We fly away to where we will never arrive. And I'd like to share a few. My first book was trying to listen to both Israelis and Palestinians, and so I picked a couple poems that are, of each side in some ways. Elfriede, 84, visits the double gravestone at Eternal Home Cemetery, the Star of David over the name of her husband Fred and her own, though she is not dead and she is not Jewish. They lived modestly in an apartment in San Francisco. She gave to Jewish charities. They walked the streets, her arm in his, with joy and pride and elegant dress. They sang in German. Between notes, she forgot her secret. Elfriede, 23, married Fred, a Holocaust survivor. Fred married a prison guard, though he never knew. He knows now, she thinks. She wants to die. She sees his pain unfold. She wants not to die. Elfriede and her dog patrolled the slave labor camp for women at Ravensbrück, and I had no contact with any prisoners, she swears, but she remembers everyone. They visit her. Sieh mich, see me, all the ones she saw without seeing. She remembers the young ones, her age, and the old ones who told the stories she heard again from Fred. She remembers the one who spoke to the ground. When the Nazis fled like roaches in 45, Elfriede waited a moment behind. She mouthed, Wer seien Sie mir? Forgive me. The Justice Department has discovered Elfriede's secret. They will send her back to Germany, to a time 60 years ago. I thought they might forget, she says, in final words to Fred. I thought they might forgive. I sit with Fred. He says they would sing German songs. His voice lilts with the memory of Elfriede, how she'd raised the hem of her skirt ever so slightly, and they would dance. I have one, but I met this mayor who was with Hamas. The tide of fealty ebbs from where you stand before us, a white square on your head, a black cord holding it in place. We wait in a quiet ripple around you, your head tilts slightly, as if listening. On the wall, a black and white kafia, in a face as familiar as any on an American dollar. Abu Ammar, father of Ammar, we called him simply Arafat, gone this day 2 years. You speak of ties to Hamas. Your words, like the moon, rile the seas. You speak of a drop of water. You say, it can dent the hardest of things. You speak of the eyes of your son, how the soldiers as clouds slipped in with the night to arrest you. You speak of what is good, what is right for your people, you, Abu, you, the mayor of Beit Omar. You say you cried, though you are a man, cried for your son that he learn of hate, learn of hard. You know how the wound of a man is passed down to his sons, to his people. The man who can fold meets out no wounds. I say you are rock, you are stone, you are water. You say you are the moon. I see how your moon can calm the seas. I call you Abu in the art of seeing. I call you poet. What do I do with this man of Hamas who is pleased, who smiles? So. I will end with this for Paul. Nod to you, Paul, for who did a blurb on my collection, The Weight of a Belief. And the whole book is, I started work on the biography, so you get kind of involved in the person that you're reading there. So I dedicated to Sam Hamill, because everywhere I turn, there you are. This poem is titled 5 Years Later in Tucson, and it was 5 years after his death in 2018 on April 14th. It is spring in the desert. Lupine, paintbrush, larkspur, lily, and pestamon wildflowers sweep through the hillsides of gold brittle brush. It is April 14th. Otherwise, it makes no sense at this moment to think about war, bunkers, war ghettos, and detention camps, and how many sunflowers are still alive in Ukraine. It was late in 2017 when a friend ended an email. One more thing, call Sam. I followed the Santa Cruz River, paused to hear it gurgle over and around rocks on its journey north to escape the southern border. A white blossom, perhaps an early moonflower, nocturnal, lives only a single night. It retreats now into a briar of sagebrush and juniper. Spring flowers laughing in the wind, wishing and hoping. Basho, so young, says Sam, does not know he will die. Where the river once ran furiously, only puddles remain. A child with legs new to walking stumbles head first toward the scurry and flip of bullhead catfish. She reaches for one, only its belly and lower jaw in the water, its gills panting. Someone uses a stick to coax the fish to deeper water, though the puddles are already full with panic. The catfish leaps, landing where it was. We gather in a circle around it, everyone inhaling, exhaling in alarm, as if for the first time we are learning about death. When the fish goes still, we forget to breathe. Thank you.
Let's give it up again for Katie. And closing out this set, we've got Brenda Cárdenas, current Wisconsin Poet Laureate, who has authored Trease from Redhem Press, a winner of the 2023 Society of Midland Authors Award for Poetry and silver winner of Forward Review's Indie Poetry Prize. Boomerang from Bilingual Press and 3 chapbooks. She also co-edited the anthologies Resist Much, Obey Little, inaugural poems To the Resistance, and Between the Heart and the Land, Latina Poets in the Midwest. Her poems and essays have appeared in many literary journals and anthologies, including Latino Poetry, the Library of America Anthology, Poetry, Prairie Schooner, Braving the Body, Latinx Poetics, The Art of Poetry, Ghost Fishing, and Eco Justice Anthology, among others. Cárdenas has also enjoyed collaborating with musicians, composers, visual artists, and choreographers. For example, in 2024, her poem Para los Tintunteros, set to choral music by Daniel Afonso, was performed by the National Concert Chorus at Carnegie Hall. Cárdenas is Professor Emerita of English at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and currently serves on the board of directors of Woodland Pattern in Milwaukee, where she lives with her husband, the poet Roberto Harrison, and their dog Maya. And I've known Roberto and Brenda for a while through Woodland Pattern, and also spending time at the Capitol grounds in Wisconsin, learning, what it takes to be in solidarity with other people fighting the destruction of the labor unions. So it was a pleasure to hear that this morning. And then let me. About Brenda's poetry. In her poems, Brenda declares we dream of opening our door. And her poems do just that. Listening above the noise that calls itself news, the daily apocalypse of the colonialist Anthropocene, and opening a door to a world in between cultures and language and perceptions, reeling in a ravenous subjunctive and code-switching past indecision with a fluid, funky lingo fusion filled with maracas, güeros, and claves, and the multilingual mon of voz. Her poems fluidly translate art and memory, traversing the myriad languages and mythologies, English, Spanish, Mexica, Mayan, to name a few of the hemi-stitched hemispheres, to break the self and other out of the vacuum of velvet painting, caricature, and into the light in which we are one life passing through the prism of all others. Please welcome Brenda Cárdenas.
And thank you, everybody. It's so lovely to be here. Been saying that all day, all weekend. And I had a set list, and then I changed it a billion times because of all the incredible conversations that I've been lucky enough to have with all of you during this time. If all of history were stuffed in a jar, if all of history were stuffed in a jar, could you count the antelope eyes and owl talons, the suffocating worms, moths, buffalo staining the plains? Could you divine colonizers gauche lust for the hustle and chase, busloads of gold, their filthy blankets, their wheezing Anthropocene? Would you shake the jar, rattle its plastic potpourri, its acrylic aurochs teeth? Could your ears have ever anticipated the blast in uranium, that the word greenhouse would evoke gas chambers, the code that conifers would create to speak with their deciduous neighbors, secret talk like drum beats? Just think, I might have watched through the mason's glass our final solar eclipse. You might have pried open the lid and stolen an amulet you thought you could use as a shield. So one of the kinds of poetry I like to write is ekphrastic poems, and I had slides, but I forgot to tell them to keep the slide projector. So I'll just do a few of those since we don't have slides of the artwork. One of the artists that I work on a lot is Ana Mendieta, and I don't know if you're familiar with her or not. She was a Cuban artist who was sent to the United States as a child during Operation Peter Pan, where they were supposedly saving children from the influence of Fidel Castro, but they were also separating them from their parents, and many of them felt orphaned. And Ana Mendieta was one of those. She ended up in foster care, from foster home to foster home, finally found art, and that really lifted her. But unfortunately, at the age of only 32, she was either pushed or fell from like the 28th story of a high-rise in New York City to her death. And so this is an ekphrastic poem based on a piece called Untitled from her Silueta series. This is the piece, but it's so tiny, I don't imagine you can see it. She always either put herself in the natural world and like would cover herself with mud, and she'd be up against a tree and the mud all over her body and look like she's growing out of the tree, or she would carve or trace into the land, and the work was very ephemeral, right? So Our Lady of Sorrows. Our Lady of Sorrows has appeared to the mountain dwellers, her grief engraved where stone softens to clay. Keep your eyes sharp for a dagger. In its hilt, you'll find her face pressed to the earth's cheek. Kiss this sacred spot before the rains wash it away like her orphaned feet. Notched heart cradles a planet heavy with nightmares flying into empty mouths. Listen for their thirsty murmurs. She'll push her ponderous child into the dew of a San Felipe dawn, name him Salvador. They'll rest beneath a web-spun umbilical, eclipsed from our human eyes. Our Lady, stone, clay, earth, rain, orphaned, heart, eclipsed. And one more ekphrastic poem here. I've been writing poems also that are in conversation with the artwork of Eric Ricardo de Luna Enel, who's a Mexican artist and does these drawings. He has 100 of them or more. The series is 100 names, 100 nombres para la muerte, 100 names for death. And so this is from a series, 100 nombres para la muerte, and this is Las Jodidas, the screwed ones. I mix some Spanish into my English. I think you'll know a lot of the words. Monedas means coins, for those who don't know. Rebozo is a shawl. La migra is what we call ice. Libros, lápices y sueños, books, pencils, and dreams. We are bent from the loads we've carried, strapped to our bony backs, sacks of maíz, hierbas, frijoles, bundles of firewood, jerry jugs of precious agua. Each Saturday, we haul tall stacks of caged birds to the mercado to sell their captive songs, their laments, our heaviest burden. Hobble a mile in our ragged huaraches, holes in their tire-tread soles. Follow us to the village of whispers where the only gritos belong to the wind, empty doorways grown over with weeds, our men's dusty boots waiting years for their return. Look into the cenotes of our eyes. You'll find no fish, no flores, no monedas, only sacrifices with their mouths full of mud and the dread of our itchy grins. Then tell us you would never risk wrapping your little lamb in a rebozo, grabbing your withered staff and heading north, devil sun, scorpion, migra be damned. You'd fly for the birds whose latches you could not unlock, You'd fly so the only satchel your daughter hoists on her shoulders is heavy with libros, lápices y sueños. You'd fly, never believing they would wrest her from your back and lock her in a cage. Deportation. We were all once citizens of snow, born beneath the stretched skins, taut tarps of our sisters and brothers. Stateless citizens of desert doorways so low, our kin had to bow to greet us as we entered the ark of this world. We each held a bowl of slate blue sky, and wherever we carried it welcomed us home. See, there are no nations, no papers, no passports. There are no quotients in this genius heritage, only jungles of bougainvillea that reach like bodies to the morning sun. Iguana tails smacking still air, only ladders to other levels of love. Thank you. In the understory. In the understory, acorn caps and scaly leaves, a lichen feast and buttery moss, the caraway seed fallen from a hiker's rye, quiver with every step. What you wish to document is under the bridge where the blue-black mystic pulses. And no matter how carefully they dredge the creek, they will never find your friend. But the windshield will surface in the current's surge. Beneath the story, beneath the bridge, beneath the tooth's bed, nerve like a paper wasp in the brain, you steady the dowsing rod that searches not for water, but for that feckless beast eating your tongue as if it were rare meat. Beneath the grammar is a fork in the sentence that turns toward unrest. Don't tell. It barely had a pulse, but the trees fed it unfiltered oxygen, and now it breathes. Memoir. Once my footloose friend was riding her bicycle downtown, scarf fluttering like a tiny kite in her wake as she followed a voice she knew was mine pulsing through a bullhorn, all firestorm and quake. Hell hath no fury like a teacher stripped of her health insurance. Once I felt a glass building shake as my two palms among hundreds slammed its walls, business busting immigrants into shards to ship in a box. I was a messy crone, even in my youth, eyes rolling a 360 like a doll's, trying to see everywhere at once. Isn't that what it is to be a citizen? A kitchen door? A camera? Now, smoking guns still smoldering in my head, I bring blankets, water, a young friend shaking her lion's mane into a roar as she glissades into the crowd, a film of all our heroes behind her eyes. This is my legacy. Teeth ground down to cracking, a tool hanging from my key ring to cut the razor wire holding us back. Thank you. This poem I'm going to read for Katie because I was thinking about how on the panel you said, I don't want to protest anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to write poems, right? I just want to live. Trespassing. Lakota Ray is an Ojibwe reservation, one of many in Wisconsin. Near Lakota Ray, 10 of us slept in bedrolls on a farmhouse's sprawling attic floor. there to trespass on land stolen by a subsidiary of the largest mining company in the world, to get arrested, to stop the drilling for one more day. I remember nothing about the protest, except the no parking signs for long stretches of county road leading to the site. Can't tell you how I managed to cross the line without arrest. Can't tell you the names of compatriots, colors of their eyes, hair, skin, slogans decaled across their tees, or how many days we stayed. What I can tell you is that 5 of us woke at 4 a.m., laced up our hiking boots, slipped on coats, hats, gloves, and walked into the forest before dawn. For 15 minutes, hoarfrost draped diamonds onto every tree branch, crystals onto every bush's crown, each ridge on the snowy trail shimmering. Hoarfrost bathed us in iridescence. I stood there in the world until the sun began to rise and stars to melt, drop at my feet. This is all I've remembered forever about that time, that place. Mark Rothko, I'm sure you know his paintings. This references a couple of them. The first one being yellow on top and red on the bottom. The second one being black on top and gray on the bottom. Rothko with roadkill and ash. It's time we stop gushing over paper bags picked up by the wind mistaken for ghosts. Death is theft. And even when you know that your roadkill, tortoises, deer, jubilant sparrows will yield mushrooms and lush green leaves, even when you want nothing more than to stuff your mouth with a handful of blueberries growing right next to your kin, you are left in a firefight with grief. It will take half your life to put it out. A generation for a forest to pulse through the ashes, and you will always smell the smoke. Because you've been taught to long for eternity, serenity, symbols, you will gravitate toward Rothko's untitled 1954, convinced of sunrise at the beach, but offstage. You would winnow everything down to untitled 1970 to remind you that gray exists despite the black cave of your throat and the abyss behind your closed eyes when you refuse, as you might, to open them, look straight into that shock of light. Erin's End. If there's a bruise on the apple, yawn widely enough to wrap your teeth around it. Some will picture you screaming, though you are only loving the whole fallen fruit, its bracelet of scars, clots, fresh prints sunk in the skin. Run into the leaf green field as if joy were your errand's end, instead of loitering like a serpent waiting to strike, or hound sniffing out each drop of despair. Consider the stone in your shoe, especially when it cuts the soul, a reminder of what you've left behind, that hiss and fist twisting down the core. Are we still talking about apples? Only you can answer that. Only you can button your jacket against the scissor wind or leave it open and flapping like a great horned owl's ragged, massive wings. Okay, I am going to, let's see, buck hunger. Between the shack's low boards where a nail loosened and one plank dove to the dirt, a stray cat slips, nestles in the rotted hem of a woman's calico dress, eyes fixed on mice huddling beneath the moose's skull that hangs on the wall like a hat. Only hunger that has walked highway and country road, forest path and nightmare enters here, hoping for a windfall of canned beans, but finds a taxidermist's glass eye, tin cup sucked dry, owl beak, and 2 spent bullets in an ashtray. Nix the meal and lie on the cot with its circus of creaks. You'll want to dream before the frost settles on your eyelashes. You'll want to meet again that 8-point buck who stared you down when you had no rifle, no bow. Find the fire in his eyes, the snort billowing from his flared nostrils. This is the blackest sound you'll ever hear. Will you bolt? Make him your lunch, your archive, your muse? This day, skip the notch in your belt, blow him a kiss of winter breath.